What is happening, and welcome to another four-wheel drive talk episode. And friends, well, depending upon when this video goes live, which actually I'm sure it will go live it'll go live after a video that you may have just watched on the Tiger Moth, the TAXA Tiger Moth. And I'm still out in Abilene, Texas with BTR Outfitters, taking a look at quite a handful of really cool overlanding rigs. And of course, earlier, I interviewed Kevin here on the TAXA. That was the Tiger Moth, correct?
Tiger Moth.
And now we're going to be taking a look at the Woolly Bear. Now this is a completely different style trailer. And so in a moment we're going to be taking a deep dive. He's going to play show and tell. I have my trusty list of questions here we're going to go through. But first, look, as I said before, we put these videos together to help you make more informed, educated decisions in terms of whether or not the Woolly Bear from TAXA Outdoors is the right trailer for you. Now, of course, if you find some value with this video, sure would appreciate, there is that like button down below. And YouTube's algorithm really digs it, and hell, so do we. So please consider hitting that. With that said, friends, pull up a seat in. Let's go. All right, Kevin, so we're going to start this off a little bit different than the last interview, because the last one, well, that was the first one that we were talking about. So for the viewers watching this, what would you say is some of the differences between the Tiger Moth, which we just looked at, and of course the Woolly Bear?
Yeah, oddly enough, the Tiger Moth and the Woolly Bear kind of line up with each other really closely in functionality. If you think about it, with the Woolly Bear, and you'll see here in a second, you're cooking outside in a kitchen with some organizational storage. You have a lot of bandwidth on the outside of the trailer to tie gear down and haul different things. Really, the difference between the Tiger Moth and the Woolly Bear is the sleeping situation. Obviously, in the Tiger Moth, you can sleep inside an enclosed trailer, and with the Woolly Bear, we utilize a rooftop tent on the risers here. So it's just it comes down to a decision as to whether or not you want to sleep inside of a habitat or on top of one. The weights are the same, pretty much, give or take, by about 100 pounds. You still have the overland functionality with the lock and roll hitch and the timber and suspension. So
what's funny is I'm noticing, of course, this, like all the TAXA trailers, you guys have a very unique footprint. Visually, you have a very unique footprint. Yes. But one thing I'm noticing, and when you mentioned that they're both the same weight or relatively close to it, I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, okay, because it's easy to think, oh no, this one's going to be far less in weight, but this one's made from different material. Yeah. That one has the kind of that.
Yeah, we have the aluminum composite panel, which takes away a lot of weight, I should say. But at the end of the day, the Woolly Bear is all steel, so it's as heavy as it comes because we don't have a way to trim weight from it.
Very cool, very cool. So starting things off, just as we did with the last one, can we have a kind of a high-level overview of what this trailer is?
What it's all about? Yeah, basically the Woolly Bear is designed for people that have been tent camping their whole life, that are getting tired of unpacking and repacking their vehicle every time they go somewhere. I like to use the example of my sons in Cub Scouts, and a lot of the times the places that we camp out, especially on the scout ranches, you're not allowed to take a trailer, which is hard for me because I work for a trailer company. I don't know how good I could have it. But yeah, we spend a lot of time parking on a road and walking our ground tent and our cooking equipment and our food back and forth from the car into the field. And what the Woolly Bear allows you to do is to basically get your configuration in order, pack everything up the way you want it, and then you just leave it that way. And it makes it all too easy for you to just hitch up and go. On Friday afternoon when you get home from work and you're going camping for the weekend, all you have to do is stop at the store. Everything is already in it.
Locked and loaded.
Yep.
So this, when people go out, one of the big benefits to this is it becomes base camp, and they can, I mean, granted, while the Tiger Moth can become base camp as well, but I'm looking at this and I'm really dying to hear you tell me what's behind these doors. It looks like there's a lot of storage on this.
Yeah, that's, at the end of the day, that's what the Woolly Bear is all about, is mobile storage. It allows you to take all your camping gear, all your equipment, all the things that you like to do recreationally, whether it be bicycles or a kayak, and put it all on here, and then go out and about and have a good time.
So, like the Tiger Moth, let's jump in the Wayback Machine and let's go back to when the Woolly Bear was originally designed. What was the original inspiration for this one?
So the Woolly Bear has a funny story. It was introduced to the TAXA product line in 2017, and the original Woolly Bear, if you could see one, go Google 2017 TAXA Woolly Bear. It doesn't look anything like this, because the original intention for a Woolly Bear was to have something that looked like a trailer that could be used as a marketing piece in a store that would hold brochures and literature. And then it's one of those things where after you take a look at it for a while, it's like, well, it probably just needs to be an off-road utility trailer, and then it evolved into what it is now. So the first iteration of the Woolly Bear is much different than what we see here today.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Like earlier, I asked how the Tiger Moth was different from others, and I'm going to do the same with this one as well. So how do you feel the Woolly Bear is different from some of the other options out in the marketplace?
Number one, the price point. Some of these utility trailers that you see out there are significantly higher, so ours is affordable compared to some other things you'll see out there. Number one, like we talked about with the Tiger Moth, if you have one of these out at an overland show or where a lot of people are congregating and seeing it for the first time, they all talk about the design. And at the end of the day, I think just the simplicity of it leads to more utility, if you want to look at it that way. So even though at the end of the day, not to undermine the design, it's storage on wheels. As we look around in a second, you'll see, much like the Tiger Moth, there's a lot of different things you can do in terms of hooking your gear onto it, different options you have for storage and carrying things that you like to bring with you.
So one of the things that I keep highlighting about your trailers is hands down, you just mentioned it, is the unique design itself here. So talk to us a little bit about what went into the design, the footprint that we're looking at with this.
Again, it kind of goes back to small profile and lightweight. We want TAXA customers, owners to be able to tow our products with the vehicle that they already have. We don't want someone to have to go buy a new truck or a large SUV. So the idea is that it's compact, it's lightweight. You and I were talking earlier, I mentioned to you when I tow it with my Jeep, if I don't have anything on the cargo deck, I don't even know it's behind me. I can see straight through the risers. I can still use my side view mirrors. So it's just a really easy towable trailer. And at the end of the day, that's the main intention with the design of the Woolly Bear, but all of our designs.
That's like, and now I was going to ask, can this go off-road? Clearly this thing can go off-road. Now, you mentioned you guys have two different versions. So is there two versions of this one, and kind of like an on-road and more of an off-road?
Yeah, it's similar to the other models where we have what we call a standard model and overland model, which is right here. The standard model, you won't have the timber and axle suspension. Instead, you'll have a torsion axle. And don't get me wrong, torsion axles are perfectly fine for like unpaved dirt roads and even some washboard style roads. It's just the timber and gives you a little bit more comfort and capability. Like today when we were arriving, we kind of went through a little what used to be a ravine, and if you had the standard model, you might question yourself versus this one was no problem. We just went right over it, no problem. So that's the main difference with the Woolly Bear Standard and Overland. Also on the Overland, we kind of adopted a new color scheme. We have kind of like this military color scheme. We also just came out with an all black one.
Versus
your standard model is going to be, the boxes are kind of like a light gray color with black badging and latches.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bet you that's going to look slick.
Yeah, it looks awesome. They did a really cool promo video of it that's on our Instagram page right now.
Fantastic.
Driving through the city of Houston.
Well, if I can get my hands on it, I will put it on the screen here someplace. Well, friends, let's dive into some of the functionality. What are we looking at here behind these? I'm really, as I mentioned a moment ago, really itching to see what's behind these doors right here. So if we can we talk about some of the functionality and some of the features of this?
Absolutely. So let's start with the kind of the main attraction, if you will. It's the kitchen. So it's a little bit different than the Tiger Moth kitchen that we looked at earlier today, but it's the same in the fact that you're still outside, like I said. It has built-in shelving made out of birch wood. It's not modular like the Tiger Moth, so it's set here. The area on the bottom right here is particularly built dimension-wise for your standard issue camp stove, which you see here. And then just like the other habitats, there are multiple slots and holes, so that way you can bungee things in here and tie stuff up once you put your equipment in. But there's really no dedicated space other than the camp stove area for a specific type of gear. It's all about whatever you want to put in it and whatever works best for you. The Tiger Moth does have up on the front 2 batteries that you can run side by side. On the other habitats, it's a group 27 size. This is group 24. So you can put 2 batteries in there and also hook a solar panel up to them. And then on the interior of the box here, there's a real simple switch panel. There's a 12-volt plug. There's a USB port for charging your phones and the device. And there are 3 switches that basically do your lights. There's a light in this storage box underneath on the other side. And then there's a red ground light for camping at nighttime, so that way you don't have to blast white light out. You can see when you get out of your tent or need to walk around in the nighttime without making the area oversaturated with white light. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. We have a stainless steel countertop here on the part that folds down that you would actually use as your cooking surface. It's resistant to bacteria. And yeah, it's just a nice little organizational.
It's funny, you just used the word organization, and in my head I'm like, wow, so I'm thinking this really makes things very well organized. I mean, this looks really fantastic, but you used the word, but I'm going to use it anyways because, well, I couldn't think of anything else to say.
Yeah.
So this is fantastic. So a lot of extra space. Now, the propane, can, like the Tiger Moth, can one of those propane carriers?
As an optional accessory, we sell a little bracket that you can screw onto the molly panel there, and the 5-pound propane tank just fits into it and straps on it, and then you can run your regulator hose right to your camp stove here.
Very cool. Alrighty, moving back, what do we have here?
So this is a pass-through over the axle that is meant to hold 5-gallon NATO cans or jerry cans side by side, so you can carry extra water or extra fuel. One of the benefits of loading or putting some water weight or liquid weight over the axle, as you can see with a rooftop tent, is you have the opportunity with the Woolly Bear to put some of your load up high, which isn't really what you want to do in some cases, depending on where you're going to tow it. So this allows you to counterbalance a potential high load. Because if you think about it, if you have a whole bunch of stuff strapped up to the cargo deck here, in addition to a rooftop tent, maybe an awning, your trailer is going to start to get kind of top heavy. So the pass-through here is designed for you to counterbalance that.
With that going right above the axle as well.
It sits right over the axle.
Very slick. Okay. What do we got there?
This is a cooler drawer. So it's a design for a 45-quart cooler, or you can put an electric cooler on the inside of it. There's a 12-volt plug in the back that runs off of your battery up front, so it keeps your electric cooler going. Typically with the 2 batteries, assuming that you're not running a solar panel, you can easily run your cooler and your lights for a whole weekend. But if you put a small 50, 75, 100 watt solar panel on it, stay out for a couple weeks if you want. Yeah, that's the intention of this. You can kind of see here the strap. We have holes and slots in here so that way you can strap your cooler down so it doesn't run around on you while you're towing it.
Now, what size is this one here?
That's a good question. This is a Dometic CFX 35, and we get asked all the time the dimensions of the cooler drawer. It's not so much the length of the drawer, because all fridges are pretty much the same length, but the height is where you have to be careful. 18 3/4 inches is the clearance from the bottom of the drawer to the lip here. So if your cooler is 18 3/4 or less, then you can slide it in and out of here, no problem.
Very cool. So everything now. On the other side of this, there's really, aside from the spare tire, there's nothing over. So all your drawers and stuff are pretty much on this side, correct?
Yeah, this box, you can see the back wall here on the camera right now. It's basically cuts this drawer in half, and then on the other side, there's just a large drawer that's empty from top to bottom, so you can put larger items like a 5-gallon bucket or lawn chairs or something like that.
So could you mount an awning system here that would...
You can, and that's a pretty typical setup of the Woolly Bear, is people will have their rooftop tent on top, and then on the top of the risers here, there are multiple holes, and then you just take your L bracket awning mount and put it on here, so that way you can put an awning over the campsite of the trailer.
Now, just to clarify, the dry weight of this is what?
The dry weight of the Woolly Bear Overland is 1,400 pounds. So we're only about 100 pounds off from the Tiger Moth that we looked at earlier today.
That's amazing. And the tongue weight of this?
Tongue weight, I want to say, is 125.
Okay, now the setup, obviously, as we can see, the setup here is pretty darn fast for getting things out, and the setup with the tent is going to be dependent upon what tent that you put on top of it. So,
Yep.
now does this come with? That had stabilizers on it. Does this have stabilizers?
It does. It's got 4.
Wow, very cool. So that keeps it locked down. And would you happen to know the length and the width of this?
From front to end, we're looking at 11 feet 4 inches, and from side to side, we're looking at 5 feet 4 inches.
So
That's fender to fender.
So with the tent like this, can you get that in a garage?
Oh, that's another good point. So if you look closely here, we have 4 bolts in the risers. These risers are adjustable. So if you're the type of person that doesn't want to put much on top of the cargo deck, like a kayak or other gear, you can drop this down into a lower position and have a lower profile. So basically it's up to you to decide how high you want it to make it garageable in your garage. Some garages are 7 feet, some are 8 for the threshold, but you have the ability to adjust it.
Very cool. So again, going back to the benefits, so this is, you're getting a lot of storage. The difference between this and the Tiger Moth, you get to climb inside. This one you have, obviously, depending upon what rooftop tent you put on there, is what you're going to use. This has a slightly smaller physical footprint. Weighs close to the same. The Tiger Moth the weight was
1458.
1450. So it's not even 100-pound difference.
Pretty close.
Yeah, it's really this, close to it. So the benefit with this here is, as you said, somebody that is used to being on the ground, now they want to be able to get up. You have that additional storage, so therefore once you get out onto location, you don't have to, like if you have a rooftop tent on top of your vehicle, you want to go off and do a little recon, do a little exploring, you got to pack all that up.
Yeah.
Something like this is fantastic because it's a small footprint. You don't need to pack up anything, just unclick. Oh, actually, we need to talk about that. I just noticed the receiver on this. So you can just disconnect this from your vehicle and go off and do whatever you need to with your vehicle. Have everything, all your camping supplies in here versus in your vehicle.
Yep.
So it's a big convenience score.
It is, and a lot of people will say, well, what if I just put my rooftop tent on top of my car? But it goes back to the same thing. If your tent is on top of your car and it's deployed, and you discover that you need to go somewhere, or the trailhead that you thought you were going to start at is not as walkable as you thought it was going to be, you have to take your tent, put it back away, versus this, you just unhitch it and drive off.
Factoring in, even with a fast closing, like these clamshells like this, they close up pretty darn fast, but you have to pull your sleeping bags out. It's still, look, I've tested a lot of, clamshells, a lot of different tents, and especially when you look at the transition of the speed of putting something like that away from like a soft shell tent or something like that, these are blazing fast.
Oh, yeah,
you get
awesome.
spoiled really fast with something like this. But then when you're out there, it's so much better. Just disconnect and go taking off. And then as we were talking earlier, as Friday is approaching, you can have this thing locked and loaded, the fridge plugged in, food's already in there, ready to go. Come after work Friday, you just go hit the road.
Well, one of the things that I like, or a positive way that I like to paint the Woolly Bear, is it makes you go camping more.
Yeah.
Because part of the battle is the preparation and like we're talking about right now, loading and unloading. When this thing's just sitting here and it's all ready to go, especially if you live out west and you have access to public land that you can camp on, all you have to do is just hitch it up and go find a spot, even if you just go for one night.
Yeah, makes it easier. Then you get off work and like, oh, I got to load up the vehicle, and it's like, I'll do it tomorrow.
Then next thing you know, it's at 7:30 at night, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm not going anymore.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so on the hitch here, you guys, so now does it come standard like with the Tiger Moth? Does it come standard with the 2-inch and
So the Woolly Bear is a little bit different than the other 3 habitats in the fact that whether you get a standard model or an overland model, you get a lock and roll hitch. A lock and roll hitch is standard on both versions of the Woolly Bear. So on the other models, the standard model comes with a 2-inch ball hitch. Woolly Bear is lock and roll all the way, regardless of what version of the trailer you buy. Okay. So there is one highlight that we want to show while we're closing this up. We have an extra storage box on the bottom here on the camp side of the trailer. And this is as long as the box, just like the top is. So this one's a little shorter. It's really good for things like camp chairs or longer items like your tripod for your camera, that kind of stuff.
Now, is this, I just realized something here. Is this a powder coat or is this paint?
It's a powder coated stainless steel, and then they paint on top of the powder coat.
Wow. Okay, so this could be very, very durable. So allowing you to throw things in there without having to worry about. And I just noticed something here. Oh, this is your solar. Okay.
Yeah, your solar inlet is right on the front there, right behind the battery box.
Oh, that's convenient.
And then there's one more thing to show on the back. So one of the popular features with the Woolly Bear is the 350-pound hitch receiver on the back. Because we don't have a back hatch or a back door to contend with like we do on the other TAXA models, it's the only TAXA model that has one. And people love this because you can put a bike rack in there or a cargo basket or just
more storage.
More storage.
That's awesome.
And then spare tire that is next to you right now, that comes standard with it. And then from back here, you can kind of see through the length of the cargo deck along with the risers. Depending on how you have the riser height spaced, you can shove a kayak through here. There's lots of options.
That's funny. I was just going to ask that. The light bulb just went off. You mentioned it a couple times talking about how you're putting a kayak, and it just dawned on me. I'm like, oh, that hole is big enough that you can probably stick 2 kayaks in there for that matter.
Yeah.
That is stinking cool stuff. Well,
then I don't know if it's in the shot or not, but the Woolly Bear, you see the wiring going into the brakes there. It does have electric brakes on it.
Oh, so, it does.
As a matter of fact, I forgot to mention that in the Tiger Moth video earlier. All of our habitats have electric brakes. If you want to be able to control the brake pressure, you can add a brake controller into the mix.
Inside the vehicle.
We're pre-wired for it, but the trailer receives incremental brake pressure through the 7-pin to help you stop. So
that is
you just don't get to pick the pressure yourself. It's a default level.
It is. If you are not running, if your trailer that you pick up has electronic, if it's set up for electronic brakes, that makes a world of difference. Just an absolute world of difference. And so that is really slick. That also all the TAXA trailers include that.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, friends, and there you go. This has been an absolute blast. As I mentioned in the first interview, I've seen these trailers online, never seen one in person, and so have been always intrigued with obviously how they look and very curious from a functionality standpoint what went into these things. And so today, with Kevin's help, we really got a better understanding of both of these trailers here, and hopefully this video was of value to you. If it was, friends, it's that time of the video where I'm going to ask you to do all that YouTube stuff because we really appreciate it. So please consider hitting the like button, the subscribe button, and by all means, hit all notifications so every single time that we come on the video, just like this one, YouTube does its whole notification thing and sends you a little heads up. But friends, that is it. So I'm going to be shutting off my cameras. You get out there, stay healthy, and find your adventure.